Hi everyone, my name is Varmar, and in this video I'm just going to showcase what I've been working on, which is kind of the whole open world environment and the resource gathering. I own the MST Pro pack, so I'm using the tree cutting system, the mineable rock system, and I was using the interactive foliage also, but I needed to rewrite this, and I'll show you why. And that's actually what I've been mostly working on. I've been working on also the trees and the rocks, but a little bit differently and not that extensively, because it was already done. Like, you have these nice placeable actors, like the placeable birch tree or the placeable coal node. Obviously, you can't just place actors in the open world environment, because if you have a 100 square kilometer open world environment, you can't just place actors, so you need to swap them, right? So you need to start with instance static meshes, like this. These are all instance static meshes, and then in real time you swap them over to actors, right? So a few approaches to this. Some people, what they do is backend and end overlap, meaning that you go close to a tree, and by going close you're swapping it to an actor, right? And you go out from the proximity or something, and then it swaps them back into static mesh. Now this is not really optimized, because let's say you have a dozen players, like 12 players, and by the time I'm going from here until the end of the forest right there, I swear it's gonna swap 50 different static meshes to actors, and then by going out of proximity, swapping back 50 static mesh into, or 50 actors back into static meshes. So you did 100 computational something, like destroying actors, creating actors, moving, adding or deleting instance static meshes per player. You have 12 players, that's 1000 messing with actors and instances for absolutely no reason, because nobody interacted with any tree. So if I just walk through like this, why would I swap everything aggressively when I don't even stop to do anything, you know? So what I was thinking about is actually doing a line trace from the character. So I do a left mouse button click, and it shoots this kind of thick sphere out of the character. And if it interacts with something like this, it's gonna have this red dot, and it's gonna interact with the particular object. Now, if that object is a tree, then it's going to swap it over. And of course, I'm using the kind of tutorial that Thurston did with the data tables, and swapping them accordingly. So where is it? This foliage swap data, which I do is choppable tree. Yes, if it's a choppable tree, then I link the class reference for the placeable birch tree, for example. If it's not a choppable tree, then I link the mineable staged call placeable BP actor, right? And of course, in both ways, I link the instance static mesh. So like this for the rocks, and for this like the tree, so it's true for the tree, and I link it this way, but both have the static mesh, right? So that's kind of what I do, and it's exactly the same as Thurston did. The only difference is, instead of begin and end overlap, like going close proximity, what I do is I swing the X like a left mouse button. And by the time my X hits the tree, it's already gonna swap it, right? So the underlying static mesh will be going there into the graveyard, and then the actor will be placed instead. So it just, I can even stand in the side like this, one swing, and there you go. Now it's there, and I can chop it down accordingly, because the underlying static mesh will be here in the graveyard. Now, after a X second delay, the underlying static mesh will be placed back, the actor will be destroyed, right? Because you have the inactivity timer in the foliage base, you also have the overall respawn timer, and I also implemented a kind of whole proximity based stuff. So of course I don't have to hit it, like me hitting the tree is not, and there we go, it spawned back. I could just take out the pickaxe and just do like this. I'm not even gonna hit it, but just like this, the underlying rock is already there because it interacted with it. So you don't really need to hit it per se. Hit is just, it comes after it, and now it's placed back. Yeah, so that's kind of the tree and the rocks itself. But it's nice because you can hit, you can swing your pickaxe, or you can swing your X, and by the time the X lands on the tree, it's more than enough. Like this 0.2, 0.3 second is more than enough to shoot out the line trace, get whatever you found, swap it over, etc. But the main stuff that I've been working on is these small interactive foliages here, right? And for this, I'm gonna show it in 3 clients and a listen server like this. I'm gonna log into the server, and then I'm gonna log in with 1 client and then another client. Second. Good. Let's just stand with this one right here, and then I'm going to stand with this one right here. Okay, so how this kind of thing is going is I can just look at the stone and it will tell me literally that this is a stone. It's going to say interact stone. Let me actually, well, that wasn't really a good stuff. Let's just enlarge it a little bit so it's a bit more visible. Like this. Good. Okay, so I could just look at it and it will say interact stone, right? But it only says to the client. Like you see that particular client looks at it, but it doesn't tell to the other client that it's a stone. The other client can just look at it itself and it's gonna say interact stone for itself. Everything is per client, it's full client base. You don't, you know. And if I pick up with this client, the other one on the right side gonna disappear the tooltip like this. But if it respawns, like I can pick this up even, if it respawns, then it's gonna highlight the tooltip back again, right? Because it's per client based, and the whole kind of transform is replicated for all clients. And then of course the rock goes into the graveyard also, just like the trees and the rocks. And this is also persistent, right? So you see world saved on the top left corner. Now if I go out from here, and then I go back again, and actually let's just go in with a one client. I don't need both of the clients for this. So 1 second. Yeah, so you can see that it's persistent. Well, it's a different graveyard, the permanent graveyard, which is right there. But the small rocks are not there when I go back into the map because I save them into an array, and then whenever the world initializes, for all clients who are joining, first they asking the server which one should I not spawn, and there we go. Now the respawn time is over, so now it's gonna nicely spawn them back one by one. There you go. So yeah, it's kind of replicated in between clients in a sense that I have this little tooltip which only highlights to the particular player. And actually let me bring up the crosshair. So just for the actual player, and just by looking at it, it's gonna tell you that it's a stone and you can press E to interact. But these are not actors, right? So if I go standalone and I do one client like this, actually do a listen server, no, selected viewport. So you can see that I have 26 actors, right? 27. Okay, 27, that's the number. I can look at it, I can look out, it's still 27 actors, right? It's not an actor for me to look at it. I could even pick it up like this, it's still not actors. They all placed there. I got +1 stone in my inventory for each, but it's still 27 actors. Like no actor has been involved into doing this or everything. And how I do basically is I created a child of the FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent. So I just literally do like this, blueprint class, actor, not this, yeah, thank you. So blueprint class, and here FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent, and I create a child of this. And that child on the begin play will be initialized for every component you have. Meaning that in your open world instance foliage actor, let's say you have one for a tree, one for a stone, one for a stick, one for a mushroom, one for a, you get the idea. Just the small ones, not the trees or the rocks. Those are still foliage instance static mesh comps. I'm talking about these small rocks, the small sticks, the mushrooms, the small header, feather, etc. These are going to be the swap foliage instance static mesh components. C_0 for the sticks, C_1 for the stone, C_2 for the mushroom, etc. For each of those, gonna execute the component, the swap foliage instance static mesh component, the child we created. And then basically on begin play, what I do is get data table row names. I do the DT items, which is the main hyper data table for all the items, right? And I do loop through them, each of the, 360 something items, and get data table row DT items. You get the outro, you break the struct, then you have these attributes, right? Kind of like the categories. So what is it here? Generic attributes, crafting, stackable, durability, consumable, etc. And then I break the generic one, and I have this, like I take out the generic and I break it, and by that I get this particular stuff. Now what is important? What is it? Generic. because I can get the name, the item name, I can also get the mesh out of this. This is the two things that I need from here, right? Like for example, here in the stick, I know that item name is stick and the mesh is the stick itself. For the stone, it says stone and the mesh is the stone. Now it's important to use the same exact static mesh from the same folder for the inventory item that you place in the open world, because what I do here is I take the item name and I set it as a foliage text variable, but only if the mesh from it equals to the get static mesh from the self reference, which is the component. What does that mean? It means that the C_0, which is in this case SM_or_stone, is exactly the same mesh from the same folder that the DT items has here in the mesh. If this one matches with this one, then the actual item name, which says stone right here, will be declared as a variable foliage text, right? And then also from the beginning, other than this kind of logic flow that it runs through like this, I also take the array element and then I make struct data table row handle. I make a row handle, right? I take out that row handle and I make a make struct inventory slot item. Now this struct inventory slot item is the actual inventory item that's supposed to be given to you by picking up the item. And I set it as an inventory item struct inventory slot item structure. And this is a two variable that each of the components, so one for a stone, one for a stick, one for a mushroom, will go through. Like each of those gonna have a begin event play, gonna run through, and each of those gonna declare their own foliage text and their own inventory item. And what does that mean is, in your open world environment, for C_0, which is the stones, it's gonna literally store stone as a foliage text and the actual stone inventory item both as a variable. And under it, let's say you have a C_1 for a mushroom, then it's gonna store the actual foliage text, says mushroom, and inventory item mushroom. And also for the stick, it's gonna store from the data tables like this, the actual item name, which is stick, and the actual inventory item, which is the stick that goes to your inventory. And why it's great is because now both of those declared as variable for each component, right? And in the BP third person, what I do is I shoot every 0.1 second, I shoot out a line trace from the character's view. And actually, let me show you in duration, for duration. I shoot out every 0.1 second out from the character line trace, and then from there, it's gonna cast it to the swap FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent, and then it's going to, it's going to do a set custom data value on index 1. It's going to do value 1, which is basically what I do is I have the material here and I do a color outline like this, which is just a Fresnel node multiplied by a color, right? And then the output is multiplied by the per custom data, and the per custom data could be 0 or 1. If you multiply this by 0, what happens? It becomes 0. If you multiply it by 1, what happens? It becomes itself. So this is kind of like an if node. If per custom data value is 0, then don't show this. If it's 1, then show this. So in reality, if this is 1, it glows. If it's 0, it doesn't glow. Simple as that, right? 1 glows, 0 doesn't glow. And then it goes into an emissive color for the material. And I can set this emissive color in runtime, meaning with the set custom data value node, I can say set the custom data index 1 for this particular object ref, which is, let's say, the C_0, like this one, the stone, and do it for the current hit index, which could be, I don't know, 75, meaning that here, for the stone, whatever it says instances, get the 75, which I don't know, this stone right here, is gonna go into the material and gonna set this one to 1, and that particular stone will glow. So that's kind of the glow effect that I do. And for the text, how I do it is that the get foliage details, which is a blueprint interface call, I literally ask the component itself, so this one that's previously declared for each of the component, its own variables. In runtime, each character can ping it with the interface call get foliage details, and it just responds with the foliage text and inventory item. So whenever the world is created, each of the components gonna loop through and they declare their own foliage text and own inventory item. And in runtime, they are just going to respond with these values whenever a character is asking the component what I'm looking at right now. And it's gonna respond accordingly, right? So in the BP third person, it outglows the item, make it glow, and it's gonna ask what I'm looking at it. And then you're gonna respond with a foliage text and inventory item. It's gonna set for itself as a temporary values. And I'm gonna create a widget, and inside the widget I am passing the foliage text, right? And of course, self, get controller, get player controller, and use that player controller. And the widget is going to be I declare as an interact widget, and I add it to the viewport, right? But it's all client-based, of course. This is client-based, so only that particular client see, and of course, only that particular client asks the component, and that particular client will get the widget to its own screen, right? And then add it to its own viewport. So it's all basically client-based stuff. And inside the widget, the particular widget, let's just also open the widget itself, right? So I just have this kind of E button fixed, the interact fixed, and the bottom side is this text block, which is just basically get interact text box secondary text and return node and then foliage text, and then there you go. So it's literally just going to tell this foliage text on the screen, which is expose on spawn. And what does that mean, expose on spawn? It means that whenever I'm creating this widget, I can just pass the variable from here. So literally the character is like, okay, show me the interact text, and this is what it should say, right? And then from there, the character can press an E key, fully separate from it. I'm checking if you're looking at the foliage still, yes or not. If you're still looking at it, then I spawn an actor, right? But it's all client-based actor, and I'm pressing the actual, I don't know, manager location, the hit component, the index, inventory item, which I know because I previously declared it here. Where is it? Right here. So I know it. So pass the inventory item, which I should pick up, etc. Reference to self, blah, blah, blah. So, and then I spawn this interaction kind of actor, and the interaction actor, what it does is on begin play, sets the instance transform, and this is the node from hyper event, try to add item to inventory automatically, and then I'm passing, this is the inventory item that should be added, give it to myself. So the instigator kind of instigator controller, meaning that whoever has been spawning this actor, give it to him the inventory item, and from there the rest you could just destroy it after a certain delay. I need to do some RPCs and stuff like that because it's fully multiplayer. So in that case, whenever it's added to the inventory, actually I need to move the underlying static mesh to the graveyard and then do a delay, and then after the delay spawn it back, right? And destroy the underlying actor, right? Destroy the actor here. And the push foliage transform is just an RPC that goes through here and then goes through here, and that's where it's updating instance transform. But this case is a multicast, so cast it out to everyone. I'm gonna go into detail about this and how I build up the whole RPC and multicast between the stuff. But the important part is what I do is here in the BP third person, I literally just do a line trace. I look at the component, and the component gonna respond me with the foliage text and inventory item, and I can separately press E key, and if I'm looking at it, it's gonna pick it up. And I will show you right now with the debugger on, or the for duration. It's gonna look like this. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's gonna look like this. And if this red dot, it looks at an item in a close proxy, I'm gonna highlight. So just like this. And now it says interact stone, right? If I look out, no. If I look back, so that's kind of the whole idea behind it. And it's 0.1 sec, doesn't need to be event tick for overkill, just 0.1 sec, more than fine. I think even 0.2 would be like a good stuff, but I don't know, 0.1 seems very okay. And yeah, if I look out, nothing. If I look, says E. And if I look out and I press E, I can't pick it up, obviously, because I'm not looking at it. That's why the security check is looking at the item. And if you do, then the last item that the item you're currently looking at, add it to your inventory. That's kind of the whole idea behind it. And that means that essentially these are static meshes all the way. It's never been an actor. I never need to spawn a placeable stick or a placeable mushroom, right? I never have to do that because it's a static mesh. I'm looking at it, it's still a static mesh because my character is just asking the actual component what I'm looking at it. And then I can pick it up. It's still gonna be a static mesh. It's just gonna put the static mesh into the graveyard, get some delay timer, add the inventory item to my inventory, but still, I only needed to kind of involve one actor spawning right here on the client side of things. Yeah, that's kind of it basically. And it's kind of the similar as the, I just wanted to make something similar as the interactive foliage, right? But without me needing to actually, because the whole key here is that I can run through the forest, nothing will be swapped, right? Mostly. So I could just go like this, run through, nothing swapped, right? But if I stop, I look at it and I'm like, I need this stone, sure, I can pick it up. But if I just run through, there's no reason for me to swap anything until the character doesn't stop and be like, okay, I need this stone right here. And I think Valheim does this because Valheim has like a small crosshair like this, and you have to look at the actual item to tell you that what it is, right? That's kind of the whole idea behind it. And of course, this also works fully with first person, right? So you just look at the item and, you know, either looking at it or not. Like, yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on.